Oh, well, okay, I'll start. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here to go over the Oahu Biz grant produced by the City and County of Honolulu. My name is Pono Chong, and I am part of the project team with the Chamber of Commerce helping to implement the program. Just to give you an overview is I'm going to give a brief presentation about the program, and then Brandon is going to go over the application and one of the forms, and then we're going to open up to question and answer. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Share. So this is the PowerPoint information created by the City and County of Honolulu, and talking and about the program and gives the overview information. Okay. So, and again, I'm not from the city, but this is their deck, so they wanted me to pass on the information. So about the Office of Economic Revitalization, their objective and goals are to stabilize businesses and families from the lingering effects of the pandemic, and then planting the seeds for a post-COVID economy that is more diverse, equitable, and provides good jobs for the people of the City and County of Honolulu. Some of their good job strategies is to preserve good jobs, create good jobs, and help people get good jobs. So a little bit about the grant. The Oahu Business Recovery Grant is a $10 million program for small businesses that have endured a 25% loss of income or more during the pandemic. And we'll get into some of the details a little later. So some of the overview and timeline. So on January 30th, which is this coming Monday, we will begin to start accepting applications from up to 400 small businesses on Oahu. There you see the website, and that'll take you to the grant website where you can get a lot more of the information we're going to talk about tonight, as well as it will allow you to access the portal where you'll be able to apply online. Grants will range from $15,000 to $50,000, depending on the size of the business. No application is guaranteed funding. For access to applications, in addition to the applications being available in PDF format on the website, in addition to it being in English, it's also available in the following languages. We strongly advise people to take a look at the website. It has the application as well as a document checklist, so you can see all the things you are going to need before the portal opens on Monday, so you have a chance to get ready and apply, because this is a first come, first served basis. And once the system reaches 400 applications, it will stop accepting applications. So who's eligible? The Organite, it's for small businesses who have less than 500 employees. At least one owner is a Hawaii resident, and the applicant's business must be operating on Oahu, because this is a city and county grant. When the application is submitted, the small business is registered and in good standing with the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. They are current on all of their federal, city, and state taxes. Please keep in mind only one application per business. And this includes and covers all DBAs under the same taxpayer identification. So getting ready, you're going to need to provide a set of things. And again, on the website, there is a document checklist that will help you organize and make sure you have all the items before you apply. So providing proof of doing business on Oahu before March 2020. Essentially, you have to have been in business in 2019. You're going to need to show you have GET from that period. You're also going to have to provide income tax for that year. You're going to have to show a net income loss of at least 25% in 2020 when you compare it to 2019, and a 25% income loss when you compare 2021 to 2019. It is both requirements. Both years need to be compared back to 2019. And also, just to clarify, you could have made money in all of those years. Your net income just has to be less 25% or more. And again, it's a whole percentage. 24.8% will not work. It needs to be 25% or more. So here are the size of the grants. This is based on your 2019 gross revenue. And I'm just going to clarify, make sure everybody understands this. Your gross revenue in 2019 will determine the size of the grant you are eligible to receive. This is different than what I talked about in the prior slide of having the net income reduction. Okay. For more help, you can call the Chamber of Commerce. They have a hotline. The number is there. They're open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. except holidays, or you can email the email below. So some key takeaways, again, go to the website. After Brandon goes, maybe I'll share it with you and just walk through it really quickly so you can see it. It has a lot of information that you'll need, the details. Take the time to gather all of your documents before applying. It's kind of like doing your taxes, you know, they say, get prepared, put everything in one place, sit down, and then do it. Same thing. Applications will be processed on a first come, first served basis, and no application is guaranteed funding. Okay. And with that, again, we're going to do question and answer after Brandon walks through the application. And with that, I'll pass it over to Brandon.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Brandon Asuncion. I am with Accumulus Advisors, and we're helping administer the Oahu Business Recovery Grant with the City and County of Honolulu, as well as with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. Give me a sec while I share my screen. Okay. So what everyone's seeing right now is the actual application. This is going to be available coming this Monday. That's the 30th at 8 a.m. It'll be available to the public. Right now, this is only available by PDF, and it's also online on the grant website right now. So like Pono mentioned, I would go ahead, start gathering all the documents that you guys have, so you are ready first thing in the morning when it does open, because it's going to be first come, first serve to the first 400 businesses that do apply and click submit. Once the 400 limit has been reached, the website will shut down. So highly advised to get everything ready, get all your documentation ready to go, and then get in line for this grant program. So I'm going to go through the actual application here. Basically 4 different sections. The first one is the eligibility section. Second is your financial tax information. The third is general business information. And then the last one is your attestations that you just have to check off before you submit it. So just to go through the formatting of the website. So everything with the asterisk in red is required. So you have to answer all these questions in order to submit. When you first go to the website, it's going to make you create your own login and username and password. So you can save and come back in case you need to gather other documents. You won't lose that information. So to go through the first section, eligibility, does your business operate in the city and county of Honolulu? So it's just making sure that you are eligible for the program here. So this one is, you have to have an answer to yes to be able to move on. Describe your principal business activity and how the business was negatively affected by the state or city's emergency orders in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a narrative, so you would just type in here, like for an example, if you're a wedding planning business, you would type here, there was a shutdown or partial shutdown during this time period, and just say how it impacted the business. And then the next question will actually dive into the specific emergency orders and how it caused your business's income loss. So there's a bunch here. Don't get overwhelmed. All you need is one to qualify for this program. If all of them do apply, then you can click on the all of the above at the top. And these are just the titles of each proclamation. So, and it's organized by the most recent on the top by date, and it goes down to the beginning of the pandemic, down to March 2020. There's links and instructions under each question. So this one has a website that'll pull up each proclamation and what all the information related to each proclamation is, so you know which one to select. And again, you only need just one in order to qualify. Next section is the business and contact information. So entering the business name that's registered with the DCCA or the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. You would upload a copy of the DCCA business registration here. There's a link under here. If you do not have one available, you can click on it and you can download a PDF. And it is important to note for sole proprietors, because you don't have to have a registration with the DCCA. What you would upload is an actual copy of your GE license in lieu of that business registration printout. Are you the business owner? Yes or no. Depending on your answer here, it would have different responses below to 6A, 6B, or whatnot. Next question, upload a copy of the primary business owner's Hawaii driver's license or state ID. And again, whenever you are uploading pictures or documents, just making sure all the text is legible. So the process there, it'll just avoid going back and forth between us and then the actual business. Entering the business's phone number, your email address for contact information in case we have to get more information on any of the information here. And then the business's physical address. Next section is the financial and tax information. So your federal tax ID number, your Hawaii GET number, your NAICS code, which is listed on your tax returns for each year. And are you willing to accept your 1099 tax form via email? So this grant is taxable. So when you receive your funds, you will get a 1099 miscellaneous tax form at the end of this year if you are eligible and paid out through this grant. So if you are willing to get it by email, you click yes, put in your contact. If no, then you'll enter in the mailing address where you want the form mailed to at the end of the year. Number of employees. So you have to have less than 500 employees in order to qualify for this program. The next question is where you would upload the documentation showing that you have less than 500. So we're asking for a copy of 2019's Form 941. The last quarter for that year would show your total employees. And if you don't have that and you use a PEO, you can get an attestation from your PEO that shows that you have less than 500 employees. And if you don't have any employees, then you would upload an attestation stating that you don't have any employees. And a copy of the attestation form is on the instructions here with this link. So you can download it, fill it out, and then upload the file. A copy of the most current signed W-9. So important, make sure everyone is signing their W-9s because that's a valid tax document. And then also uploading a copy of your DCCA certificate of good standing. It has to be current, not over 60 days old. There's a website here underneath with instructions if you need a copy of it. And again, for sole proprietors, a copy of the Schedule C from the IRS Form 1040 from year 2021 can be submitted in lieu of this. And then we're also asking for copies of the federal and state of Hawaii tax clearances. So again, has to be current, not over 60 days old, and instructions are on the bottom. If you need to register with HCE, here's a link. And if you have the Hawaii Compliance Express certificate of vendor compliance, that is good enough to pass for this requirement for both the federal and state, because it is a requirement to have your federal tax clearance just to get this one through the state. So probably easier just to get your certificate of vendor compliance here from the state instead of getting both separately from the IRS and Department of Taxation. Next question, does the business own real property in the city and county of Honolulu? Important to note here, this is the actual business's ownership of property. If you own it personally, that doesn't apply. So if you don't, great. If you do, you just have to provide evidence that you're current on all your taxes. Next question, upload complete copies of your filed federal and state tax years 2019, 2020, and 2021 income tax returns with all the supporting schedules. This is where you would use this to calculate your net income, which is the next question. So upload the net income calculation form, and I'll go through this in 1 second. And this is where you would use your federal income tax returns to input the information here. And this is what you would use to calculate whether or not you apply or are eligible for the grant. If you have a 25% loss between 2020 and 2019, and then also 2021 compared to 2019. So instructions are on the bottom. There's a link here on the bottom to download the net income calculation form, and instructions on exactly where to find the information on your tax forms depending on your entity type is also below. If you're S Corp, regular C Corp, if you're a sole proprietor or a partnership. So let me just switch to the net income form. Okay. So this is the net income calculation form that you can download direct from that question.
Brandon,
So,
I think the wrong screen. It's still showing the application.
oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, I think this should be the net income calc form.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is the actual calculation form that you can download from the application in Submittable. This is where you would put your net income information from your federal tax form. So broken out by year, different sections, 2019, 2020, and 2021. This is where you would put in your net income. So for 2019, as an example, if you made $100,000, this would be your basis. There shouldn't be any other adjustments in 2019 for grants here. But just make sure you're double checking and going through the different listings here. So under net income, these are the different adjustments that we would have to add back in, because some of these are not taxable and not included in your federal tax form. So the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program is an amount that's not included. So you would have to add that back. So when you're looking at 2020 as an example, if you had $70,000 here on your federal tax form and you had 5,000, let's say you had a $20,000 PPP loan and 5,000 of that was actually forgiven, you would put in the 5,000 here in the tax year that it actually was forgiven, not necessarily when the funds were received, but in the year that it was actually forgiven. So you would put that here. And these are other examples of adjustments to net income in order to calculate the net income when you're comparing year over year. So the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant is another one. Restaurant Revitalization Fund Grant, the Idle or Economic Injury Disaster Loan Forgivable Advance. And important to note here, this is the forgivable advance portion. I think it was up to 10,000 that was forgivable for this program. So it's not the actual loan itself, but it's the forgivable portion. City and County of Honolulu Small Business Relief and Recovery Fund Grant, Hawaii Business Pivot Grant. And again, important to note here on the instructions, if it's not included in your taxable income here that you have on each year from your federal tax form, you would include it here as an adjustment. And listing any other grants below from the CARES Act that were not considered taxable would have to get added into the year that you received them. So for this example, $70,000, you made $70,000 in 2020. You have to add back the 5,000 for the PPP loan that was forgivable. So the comparison from $100,000 going down to 75,000, just for simplicity, it's $25,000 loss year over year, 25%, you're eligible for that year. And let's say you made $60,000 in 2021, it would be a 40% loss with no adjustments here. It would be a 40% loss. But if you had $10,000 for the second round of the PPP loan and $5,000 here, it would still be 25%. But if you had 25,000, say you had more employees during that base period and you got more money that was forgivable, then unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible because both years have to be 25% or more. Let me go back to the application now. Okay, so once you do that, you can re-upload that file here. So I would highly recommend everyone download these files, especially this one, because this is going to be the one that's going to be the hardest to qualify. So I'll start with this one so you don't waste your time in case you aren't eligible for the program. I would start here before you start gathering the other documents. Moving on to the next question. So this is just asking to upload documentation for all the other previous current federal aid received or due to be received through these programs. Next question, what was your gross revenue for 2019? And this is specifically just to determine the grant size of how much you'd be eligible to receive. And then uploading a copy of your filed annual GET return, which is Form G49, and if applicable, Form G75 for all 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And then lastly, uploading a copy of the signed Form 4506T. A link down here is right below with instructions. And what this does is it allows us to request the official tax return transcript from the IRS. And then the last section is the attestation. All of these items have to be checked and should be done by a business owner when you're doing this application, or at least someone who is financially savvy enough to understand these questions and can attest to them. So each one has to be checked in order to move on. And these are just the eligibility requirements of the program. And then lastly, you would type in your signature here, your title or position, the date. And if you do have any technical difficulties with this website, you can shoot an email to support@submittable.com on this technical support link. And again, you can save your draft if you don't have everything ready. And then once you're done, you'll click submit. And all the communication will go back and forth through submittable notifications will go to the email registered through here. And that's about it. I'll turn it back over to Pono. Thanks.
Thank you, Brandon. So we're going to go back and I'm just going to really quickly share the website. We gave you the link several times. We'll put it into the chat, but here is the website with the information, oahuBizGrant.org. And here it has some general information about the upcoming webinar, which is tonight. Tonight is the last one. This is the third and final webinar for the program. We had one once a week after the launch at the beginning of January. So this gives some overview information. And then eligibility criteria is where a lot of the information is. For those of you who need translation in the website itself, we include these links up here where Google Translate is used. Scrolling down, here is the grant application, and you just click it, and the PDF version of what Brandon just went over will be available. So again, you can take a look at it. You can start to put together the information. Here is the net income calculation form that Brandon talked about. We do suggest you take a look at that first, because that is the primary requirement, is to meet the 25% reduction of net income between 2019, 2020, and 2019 and 2021 before you start to do and get all the other items, as well as making sure you obviously meet all of these requirements. I did see a question, and there's probably a little confusion on number 6 here. The reason why March 2020 is listed as a date to having to prove business, you were in business before that, is because that's a lot of where the official proclamations came out that began, that government is saying or instituting guidelines because of the pandemic. So that is, whether it's this or if you saw CARES Act or the old city or pivot grants, that's normally the date that was used. That being said, you have to have been in business in 2019 in order to qualify, because that's one of the income tax returns you will have. So you do need a 2019 income tax return in order to use in the comparison to determine your eligibility. So again, here's the formula. We put some scenarios just to kind of illustrate some various points of this. Example 1, kind of like what we talked about earlier, it has to be a whole number. We don't round up. So 24.8 is not eligible. That's what that example is showing. The example 2 is showing you made money in all 3 years, but as long as there is a net income reduction of 25% or more, you are still eligible. Example 3 kind of shows you if you lost money in all 3 years, just that your percentage would be in the positive. And then item 4 is probably most likely for many people. You made money in 2019, you lost in 2020, and you made money in 2021. So again, just some random examples. Here's the required documents, some guidelines. Here's some links to get the forms that you are going to need to fill out, complete, and upload. And then more information. Again, starting with the application and then the net income calculation, we believe is a good starting point. And then resources, the past webinars, and again, tonight is the final one, or past ones, excuse me. Tonight is the final one. The past ones, you can go and see and watch them. They are recorded and posted there. And then we have a FAQ, and the FAQs are from questions we anticipated, some we have received, and then from all the webinars we've tried to answer, and you can kind of look at them. And on the 30th, you will come back here and then you will apply for the grant. And then we are going to put the link on this page for you to apply, and it'll take you to the submittable site. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stacy to begin the Q&A phase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I see there's quite a bit of questions. I don't know if Brandon and Pona, you guys want to come back on camera so I can ask them to you. The first one is we own multiple businesses. Can all businesses apply upon meeting the requirements? I can go ahead and answer. It looks like Brandon might be away for a little bit, but it's one application per FEIN. So depending on how your businesses are structured, if they're all in one FEIN, you would only be able to submit one application. If you have multiple FEINs, and one for each business. Next question, is the application available now? And I think Pona just went through that. The PDF of the application is available on the website. I think the next two, so question number 13 is broken down into 3 NAICS numbers. However, the SBA EI deal that I applied for and received, I put it under 1 NAICS code, then broken down to real estate sales, leasing, notary public, and educator. Does the application only allow 1 code? Do you know, Brandon? I think really
No, it allows any code. There's no limit to the number of codes or characters or whatever in the submittable app. But the purpose of this one is it won't disqualify you or anything for putting 1 code or another. It's just for reporting purposes. So I would put in all the codes that you are eligible for, that you did report on your tax return, but there isn't a limit.
Thank you. So next question is, when you say net income loss, you're referring not to the actual net income, but the adjusted net income from the calculation worksheet, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Question number 11 on my taxes. My social security number is listed then for each related business entity. Each Schedule C has its own EIN. So I just put the social security number as it appears on my federal taxes. And that, I guess, I'll answer it since I probably have a little bit more tax experience, but you can either use, if you have your own EIN, I think it's just a preference. If you have separate EINs for each business and each business would qualify on its own, you might qualify for more grant funds that way. Alternately, if you use your SSN, that would probably consolidate all of your businesses into one application. So it's what you prefer to do. Next question, if you had no employees in 2019, but you do now in 2023, how do you respond to question number 16?
Question number 16, I believe that's the Form 941.
Yeah.
Showing that you have less than 500.
I think it's we're looking for how many employees you had in 2019.
Yeah, at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question, if the businesses receive forgiveness of PPP 1 and 2 in the same year, that most likely makes their adjusted net income loss, net income less than 25% loss for that year, which makes them ineligible for the grant, even though the other year may have sustained heavy losses. This seems unfair since their cumulative loss for 2020 and 2021 may still be well over 50% versus 2019. Do you want to take that one, Photo? You're on mute.
Sorry. We're implementing the grant the way it was designed, and I think I don't want to speak on behalf of the city. But I guess having been involved in other grant programs, I think they're trying to help those smaller companies who maybe didn't receive funding the first go round, because there were a lot of companies who were ineligible. And the primary example is home-based businesses. In many of the CARES Act, you were required to have a commercial address. So for whatever reason, there was a lot of consultation with various industry. The city consulted with various industry groups, and then they came up with a plan here as you see the program.
So this is the next one from the same person is a good one. I don't think we went over this already, but the calculation seems unfair to businesses with the fiscal year that does not coincide with the calendar year, since, for example, losses from March through June 2020 would be included in their fiscal year 19 figure. Brandon, you want to take that?
Yep, and that's a good reminder. So when we do, or when you do upload your tax forms and you do the calculations, it is for your fiscal year. And so when we ask for 2019, 2020, and 2021, it's for those fiscal years that end in those years. So if you're a 3/31/19 year-end business, you would upload that form and use that as the basis for your calculation. So the IRS form is actually labeled as 2018 on the form for your fiscal year end 3/31/19. So it is a little confusing on that end. But it is the forms that you would be using is the ones that have the fiscal year end for those months that end in those respective years.
Thank you. The next one I think was kind of answered by Pono already, but it says, wouldn't it be more fair to use cumulative loss for 2020, 2021 instead of looking at each year adjusted loss separately?
Again, we're just reviewing the program as the way it was set up.
Next, is a net income form available to download now, or do we need to wait until Monday when the application's open?
It's on the website, and you can download it if you go to the eligibility criteria page, and then all the forms, including the application, are there.
Next person joined a little late. Will there be a replay of this webinar available?
Yes, we will be posting the recorded version maybe tomorrow or so. This is the third one we've had. So if you want, the first two are also online already, and you can go to the resources page on the website, oahuBizGrant.org, and you can watch that as well.
Next question on the net income calculation form. I just want to confirm we need to add PPP amounts to line 6, and that will count as net income. So for example, with that, there is not a loss of 25%. Am I not qualified?
Yes, so that is correct. You would add back the PPP into the calculation as an adjustment. So if your calculation does go under 25%, then you would not be eligible.
Next question. I don't have to have any employees to apply for this program, correct?
Correct.
I did have a loss of more than 25% for both years, but when we add PPP, it changes, and that is less than 25%. Again, do we need to add PPP to determine net income loss?
Yes.
I think so, yes. Can we create a login and password now, or do we need to wait until January 30th? Do you know, are they?
I think you can go in and create an account, but you won't be able to access. I will just double check with our tech team, and we will post the answer on the FAQ tomorrow.
If I have no employees, do I need to complete the LIR 27 form TDI?
I'm not sure which form that is.
I don't think that's actually a required, so the LIR 27 is not a required document. Just the federal and state tax clearances are, as well as the DCCA certificate of good standing.
If you do use the HCA compliance, it will route it through that process, though.
Yeah, and so we are actually in the process of trying to clarify that with the state. That if you show as non-compliant on the HCE, what happens then? But we will try to post a clarification to that.
Yeah. If you don't have employees, it probably will show not applicable. But again, like Stacey said, just you can look back for the answer.
On the net income calculation form, what line from the federal tax return is a net income loss? So okay, Brandon, you can answer.
Yeah, it depends on your entity type. So the instructions are available under that question. I think it's also posted on the website, I believe now, Pono.
Yes, sorry.
Or actually, it's
Yes.
on the net income calc form too,
It
so
is,
that's
yeah.
available right now. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would refer back to that document. It'll point you to the specific line to look at depending what entity type you are.
Sole proprietor business with two owners, one 90%, one 10%. Can the 90% owner apply on his own without the 10% owner? Yes, I would say yes. Yeah. So you have I guess what you're saying is you kind of have an unofficial partnership, but it's being treated as two, it's being reported as two sole proprietors. So yes, you can apply. Next question, our company has 3 LLCs, file one consolidated tax return, only one LLC so far. I think will qualify the percentage requirements, but if we submit the tax returns, 2019 will be a combined of 3 LLCs and exceed this 5 million limit. How are we going to do this, or we are not eligible after all? So you can apply for each EIN, one application for each EIN. So if your company has if your 3 LLCs has its own EIN and GE license, I think that will demonstrate whether or not you had more than 5 million in gross receipts, or less than 5 million in gross receipts per LLC. I think that's what you're asking. Let us know or type another question, I guess, if that didn't answer. Next, according to instructions, sole proprietor should submit Form 1040 with all supporting schedules. We will submit Schedule C. Do we need to submit the other schedules? For example, Schedule D, which is for investment. So we are asking for the complete tax return. So it would be the Form 1040 with all of the attachments. Am I able to start uploading all information and just hit submit next Monday morning at 8 when the website starts?
No, the application will not go live until Monday at 8 a.m.
Next question, the EIDL and city grant, I believe, were taxable. Do you need to use these figures in the net income form?
If you reported these as taxable on your net income, then you wouldn't have to include them. I'm not sure which specific city grant you're referring to. The idle loan advance would be an adjustment, because I think that one should not be taxable for federal purposes. I'm not sure if you're talking about the Hawaii state tax laws, but for federal, we're using the federal form. So the net income calculation form is adjusting based on federal guidelines. But if for some reason you reported them in your net income on the federal tax return, you would not have to adjust it. But the IRS might come back to you and say, hey, you overestimate, or you reported your net income.
Thank you. If you're unsure which proclamation to use, can we check all?
I think you would just check all that that apply, and I didn't look at them all, but I do think it is all the proclamations are for the period of the pandemic, so it is possible that all of them affected you because it was during the time of the pandemic. But for each individual business, that is up to you on which ones did affect you or not.
We do have a all button too, if they all apply to you. And I think you really need to check one to be able to qualify for the grant. Next question, on the net income calculation form, do we only include loans and grants that are taxable?
You would only include those loans and grants that are not included in your net income figure for federal purposes. So PPP, for example, is not taxable, so we're adding it back into the calculation. The idle loan advance is not taxable for federal purposes, so it's adding it back in. So it's actually the opposite.
Next question, can I have the website / links to start drafting?
We'll put that in the chat, oahubiz grant.org.
Thank you. And just so you know, it's just the website just has a PDF copy of the there's a PDF copy of the application and then a checklist of what you need. Next, I just applied for the tax clearances. Will the tax clearances be sent to your office automatically? Or I don't know if you mean our office or your office, but they should. A lot of them, I think, are being sent by email. If you can do it through the HCE, I think that's the fastest way to get it. I think they just email you a confirmation. Did you want to add anything, Pono?
No.
Thank you very much. Next question, a C corporation is a holding company with multiple single member LLCs that are disregarded for income tax purposes. Each single member LLC has a separate FEIN and GE license. Can each single member LLC file as an applicant for this grant? Yes, you can. On the calculation form, it says that C Corp should refer to line 28 on form 1120. If the values are negative, do we input it as a negative value in row 6?
Yes, you would put it in as a negative. So if it was a loss.
I think this one actually was a repeat question. I saw this. They just asked, we answered that one already. Next question, where in the website is a link to PDF copy of the application? I only see the link to net income calculation worksheet. If you see the link to the net income, well, I think there's multiple places where there's links.
It's right across of it. It's right next to it. So here, real quick. So here's the net income calculation form. And then here's the actual application, applications, net income. And then again, each in the other languages, I mean, English and the other translated languages.
So next question, if my company was first established during the last quarter of 2019, but filed taxes and have the documentation to prove it, along with being able to prove a 25% or more net income loss, will my company be eligible for the grant? Yes.
And just to clarify, right, it's the 25% between 2019 and 2020 and 2019 and 2021.
Question number 18, I have a certificate of good standing for one of my combined businesses, but for one of them, it only has a DTC license certificate of good standing. Will this suffice as well? I'm not sure what that question is.
Well, I'll help answer it in the way I'm interpreting it. Is you have a certificate of good standing for one of your combined businesses because it's either a LLC, single member, a corporation, or some other business entity you have to register with business registration. And the other is you are a licensee of a profession, vocation, or license that requires a license, and that's what you have a good standing for. That is different, because that is about licensure and not about organization or entity. So if that business that has a license doesn't have a certificate of good standing because you didn't register with business registration because you're a sole proprietor, then you would go back for that entity and fill out the sole proprietor sheet that I think you submit your 1040 and your GE, or I forget, Brandon, if you can jump in and add what you would do if you're a sole proprietor only.
I can help with that. So if you are a sole proprietor, In lieu of the DCCA, your initial license, or your initial business registration, you can upload a copy of your initial general excise tax license. And if you don't have a account with the DCCA and you can't get a certificate of good standing, you'll just have to upload a copy of your Schedule C, your Form 1040. And presumably, if you also do get tax clearances, which is required elsewhere, that shows that you should be in good standing because you filed all your tax forms timely. Okay, next question. Is owner considered an employee, or do I have to enter 0? So I can try to answer that. The owner is only an employee if it's on payroll and it's included in the 941. If you don't have any other employees other than yourself or the owner, then there's an attestation form that you can download and sign saying that you don't have any employees. Next question, if a company files a tax return that includes multiple disregarded single member LLCs, may each separate disregarded LLC apply even though it did not file its own tax returns? I think that's a duplicate question, but yes, for each disregarded LLC, as long as it has its own FEIN, can apply. Next question, what about companies that included grants as income and funds were regarded income in the tax returns? So if you had grants that were reported as income in your tax returns, you don't need to add them back again in the net income calculation form. We're just really trying to capture what was not taxable and what was not included in your tax returns. Next question, can we complete the application and upload documents now and then wait for the portal to go live? And I think Kono answered that.
No. And I just want to clarify, I want to be clear, the applications on the website that are in PDF format are just for you to use so you can prepare for the opening. What we wanted to do is put it all online so people could prepare for when the site goes live. You do not fill out the PDF form application and then upload it. The only form you would need to fill out is a net income calculation form, as well as maybe some of the other like tax clearance, some of those things. But the application itself, you have to fill out on the submittable platform, which will go live on Monday at 8 a.m.
What about EIDL loans to pay back? Does it need to be put on the net income calculation form?
No, that wouldn't have to get added back. Well, ones that you don't have to pay back, you do. Only the forgivable portion you would add back in. So the actual loans themselves, you wouldn't be including as an adjustment on that form.
Okay, so I think we answered this, but maybe we just restate it. If my fiscal year is July through June, I use July 2018 through June 2019 for year 2019. Question mark. Correct.
So for 2019, yeah, that's correct.
Do you have a direct link to the application PDF? It looks like Kono's going to provide a link in the answer.
I just said.
Okay. For bank statements, can I blot out any personal information and provide just a sheet that shows a grant deposit, or do I have to upload the whole bank statement? Yes, you can redact the account number and the whatever else you want to redact from the bank statement.
As long as the only information we do need is the name of the business, obviously, so we know it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Next question, we use 1099 consultants. What attestation form should we use since we do not file 941? So if you don't have any employees, there is an attestation that's linked in that question on the application that you can just download and sign and re-upload. The only purpose really for the 941 is to demonstrate that you have less than 500 employees. Next question, how would the application be affected if ownership changed from then to now? For example, if the majority owner passed away?
I believe the ownership structure should be similar, so I think we would have to defer back to the city for this question, because they did address if there was a change in the ownership structure that the owners would have to be similar. So if it changed from a sole proprietor, I mean, not sole proprietor, from like a partnership to a LLC or something like that, the ownership structure would need to be similar. So we can check with the city and get back to you. We can post it on the FAQs on the website.
I think there's a lot of different implications to that because hopefully the majority owner wasn't the only Hawaii resident also. My CPA filed with the wrong NAICS number on all years on my tax returns, so I put in correct applicable NAICS code on the application. I'm going to say that would probably be better to do just because I think that the city is trying to capture that information for data analysis and reporting purposes. So it'd be better to have an accurate NAICS code in the application. Next question, are you asking for state and federal tax return or just federal?
Both are required documents for the program, but for the net income calculation and the grant revenue questions, those would be your federal tax returns that we'd use.
Next question, I may not have all of the documentation for the federal funds, EIDL CARES that I received. Is that going to be a problem?
The main thing is you can show any type of awarding of, well, if you have any awarding documents, that's the best. You can also use the payment where you did receive it. So whether it's a bank statement, check copies, if it was paid by that method, or even 1099s that were issued to you that you use for your tax returns. Another alternative to those is to also use the tax returns if they are listed in your tax return. You can use those to upload as documentation.
Next, do we only need federal tax or do we need fed and state? And I'm assuming you might want to answer both for tax returns and tax clearances.
Yeah, so both are required for both questions, for both federal and state.
So next question, do we upload all 1040 and 11 and 1120S tax forms for all 3 years? So you only need to upload your business tax return. So if, depending on what your form of business is, so you wouldn't need to do both your 1040 and 1120S. Just whichever, it sounds like your business is reported on your 1120S. So that's the only one you need to upload along with the state form as well. Next, my boss is out of the country. Can I upload all info and forms from her CPA? Can I save and have her sign later in the day due to time difference?
Yeah, that should be fine. The main thing is that she's going through and she's doing the acknowledgements of those attestations, and she's the one that's providing most of those answers.
So 3 LLCs has its own, okay, I think this is a clarification to the other one. It has its own FEIN and GE tax licenses, but when you need to verify 2019 tax return, gross revenue is a combination of all 3. All 3 exceeded 5 million, then it will make the application not eligible. Otherwise, the purpose of the 2019 tax return won't serve its purpose. So the GE tax return is where you're going to be showing that which amount of grant you qualify for based on your gross revenues that's reported on your GET return. And the 2019 income tax return is going to be where you're pulling your net income from. So presumably if you're sole proprietor with 3 single member LLCs, each one would have its own Schedule C. So you would pull the net income from each of the 3 Schedule Cs on your application. Next question, if we miss the 400 applicant cutoff, may there be another round that we could apply for in the near future?
We are not sure. We have to see how this first set goes, and as if you remember, like one of the early slides, it has $10 million. Because this is a new grant program and it has new requirements, we are unsure how many people will be eligible, what the average grant size will be, as well as how many will be approved versus denied. So it just depends how the numbers work out and whether or not there's money left over and how the portal will be reopened. So it's possible, but we don't want to promise anything.
Next question, if I cannot get a particular form, should I submit the application anyway?
You need to have all required documents in order to submit the form. So everything needs to be complete before you submit.
The software won't allow you to submit the application unless everything's uploaded. That's required for the forms that are required.
Not sure what this is asking. Will we be directed to the portal directly when we complete the application?
So on Monday at 8 a.m., we are going to turn on the site. We're going to place the link on for you to access the application on the Oahu Biz Grant website. So again, if I'm going to read a little bit into your question. Again, the PDF application on the website is just for informational purposes. It is not meant to be filled out. It's to help you prepare for when the portal does get turned on Monday. You have to apply in the platform that Brandon showed everybody on the submittable platform.
Next question is, would the single member LLC disregarded for tax purposes upload parent owner's tax return? That's correct. Yes. Next, when the EIDL loan is a loan which also incurs interest, the repayment of the loan, do we still need to add that amount to the income level for the year since it's not forgiven or forgivable?
No, these ones you wouldn't add in. And again, it is only the forgivable advance that is the adjustment that you're going to add back into net income. It's not the loan amount or the monthly payment that includes the interest and principal.
Next question, what if net income 2019 was under 75K? Will you still qualify for a grant?
So I think the 75K you're referencing is for the grant sizing. So that's pointing to your gross revenues, not your net income. So two separate calculations. One is the grant sizing, where you're using gross revenues from 2019 to figure out how much grant size you're eligible for. And the second one is the net income that we're using from your federal tax forms. And that's where you're comparing 2019 to 2020 and then 2019 to 2021 for your 25% losses.
And then we're going to try and finish the rest of the questions. The last one, anonymous attendee at 8:05 is the last question we will take. Megan, if you can turn it off. Thank you.
Okay. My company is not listed in good standing on the DCCA website due to not submitting an annual filing for the year 2022. How long will it take to be listed as good standing after I file it? I actually just submitted my annual filing earlier this month, and the DCCA processed it within a couple of days. So it's really, I mean, if you haven't done it, I don't think it's that hard to do. It's just confirming your address and the ownership of your business. What if all uploaded information is too large? What is the maximum? Do you remember offhand what was asked before?
Look, it's listed on the website. I want to say it's like 400 megs per file or 800 megs per application.
Next question, do you need a copy of the documentation for the grant received regardless of its taxability on the tax returns? Yes, so I think, and I think Brendan earlier answered all the different types of documentation that's acceptable for the grants. When the question, the boss is out of town, can you confirm you can save the application and have her sign in and sign later in the day? Yes, you can. I'm not sure what COVID-19 emergency orders I need to mark, as there are a lot. Can I click on all of the below? Yes, you can. Some questions have only a one file upload ability. Does it accept the various combined business scan documents into one file if it meets the file size and megabytes? Is that true? That there's only one file upload in some of the questions?
Yes, I think in particular, it's like the DCCA, BREG, or some of those that are like the one pagers.
Mhm.
But for most that require multiple, like the tax returns or something, it should allow you to upload multiple.
Okay.
Yeah.
That says I'm on the site now. Where can I create user login and password?
We'll post that in the Q&A tomorrow. You can click on the link through there and it will take you to Submittable.
Okay, thank you. The last question, if there's a remaining amount from the 10 million that was dedicated towards funding the grant, will it be redistributed differently to all the eligible receivers, or will it be put aside to possible future grant?
We will ask, follow up with the city and then post the response when we get it back.
I think if there is remaining, the most likely outcome is that we would just reopen the portal and accept more applications, most likely. And rather than redistribute it to all the people who've received funds already.
Oh yeah, sorry, I misread the question, yeah.
So I think that's it. There's one more that came in, but after the cutoff.
So yeah, thank you, everybody. We wanted to respect everybody's time. We know we weren't able to get to all the questions. But again, thank you for taking the time to be here with us. Again, if you have other questions or after this, here is the email, here's the phone number you can call, the call center, and then send your questions via email, and we'll get back to you. Okay. And anything else, Stacy, Brandon, Megan?
Nope.
Nope, nothing else for me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.